And no one, I mean no one, is paying to see Angel Reese attempt to play basketball. Hell, not even Mama Reese is paying to watch this lack of skill.
When Caitlin Clark suffered a left quad strain on May 25th, 2025, the WNBA could not afford to ignore the picture painted by the numbers. The impact on the league's economy was immediate and devastating, and as Clark gets ready to miss at least 2 weeks of play, the stark contrast between her magnetic appeal and the rest of the league has become unavoidable, forcing players like Angel Reese and the struggling Chicago Sky to face an uncomfortable reality about star power in professional women's basketball.
You can't tell me that the Caitlin Clark effect isn't real. You knew when news broke yesterday that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for a few weeks, that ticket prices were going to go down, but I never expected them to go down 71% for the rivalry game.
When the WNBA's carefully crafted economic momentum collapsed like a house of cards, ticket prices for the Indiana Fever games fell by an astounding 42% overnight, from an average of $1,370 to just $80. This wasn't a slow decline or a market correction. Rather, it was an instantaneous realization by fans in the marketplace that the product simply wasn't worth the same price without Clark. Prices for tickets to the Indiana Fever.
Indiana Fever ticket prices to games over the next 2 weeks have dropped 42% since Caitlin Clark's injury announcement. An average ticket price of $137, all the way down to $80. People are selling their tickets, definitely can't get face value, so what do? They just continue to lower and lower and lower and lower and lower the price.
As word of Clark's absence spread, the Chicago team, which had made a significant investment in moving to a larger venue, saw its ticket prices plummet. The team had moved their upcoming June 7th matchup against the Fever from the 10,387-seat Winrust Arena to the massive 21,000-seat United Center, specifically to accommodate the anticipated Clark crowds. The get-in price for what was supposed to be a marquee showdown dropped from $86 to just $25. The financial implications were swift and severe.
Game to the United Center, the home of the Chicago Bulls and the largest arena in the NBA, expecting a marquee matchup between Clark and sky forward Angel Reese. Now here's where it gets sweet, all right? It gets real interesting right here. However, uncertainty looms as ticket prices for the game have plummeted dramatically following Clark's injury announcement. Oh my goodness. Since it became likely she will miss the June 7th game, ticket prices have dropped a staggering 71%. Oh my goodness. Following from an entry price of $86 to just $25 according to TickPick.
This economic collapse brings to light a basic reality that many WNBA players have been unwilling to acknowledge. The league's present success is not shared equally among its stars, while players like Angel Reese have received recognition and praise. The television viewership figures tell an even more compelling story about Clark's unique position in the women's basketball landscape, as Fox Sports analysis shows that games involving Clark and the Indiana Fever averaged 1.178 million viewers during the regular season, nearly tripling the viewership of other WNBA games, which averaged just 394,000 viewers. The financial data also reveals a stark hierarchy of drawing power that puts Clark in a tier entirely her own. This is a radical change in the appeal of sports television, not a small distinction or a slight advantage.
As I told you earlier, these WNBA franchises that moved games like the Chicago Sky to the United Arena, you're screwed. You're done. You're cooked. Nobody is going to show up to this thing. Chicago Sky can't sell out their own 9,000-something seat arena like it is. They couldn't when they were kind of decent. They're a dumpster fire now. And now that Caitlin Clark is injured, the ticket prices for the Fever and Sky game just plummeted to Hades.
The May 17th, 2025 game between the Fever and Chicago Sky was a perfect example of this phenomenon. It drew 2.7 million viewers, setting a record for the most watched NBA regular season game in 25 years. The broadcast peaked at 3.1 million viewers, proving that Clark's appeal could attract casual sports fans who wouldn't typically watch women's basketball. If you're enjoying it, please subscribe. When we look at the larger pattern, the data becomes even more striking. Of the 24 WNBA broadcasts that attracted at least 1 million viewers during the 2024 season 21, Caitlin Clark was featured in 21 of them, meaning that nearly 90% of the league's most successful television events relied on the presence of a single player. This single game generated more viewership than some playoff series from previous seasons, highlighting the magnitude of Clark's impact on the league's television product. The Indiana Fever played in all 3 of the games that drew over 20,000 spectators, solidifying Clark's position as the league's main attraction.
We know that wherever she goes, she's selling out arenas. The ticket prices skyrocket. Like, even trying to get tickets to Carver Hawkeye Arena when they played the Brazilian national team at her old school was just insane prices. If she's going on the road, wherever she's going, ticket sales jumped by 140%. Average is $312. Like, that's crazy.
No team in the WNBA as a whole better represents the harsh reality of star power than the Chicago Sky, who are currently sitting at 0-4 to begin the 2025 season and are in the awkward position of being winless, while their alleged rival continues to make headlines despite the injury report. Angel Reese, who has been Clark's main opponent since their college days, must struggle to stay relevant for a team that has had a hard time defining itself on the court. The Sky's current record is a sharp decline from their expectations, and their inability to win has coincided with a decline in fan and media interest. While the United Center games against Indiana commanded premium pricing due to Clark's anticipated presence, the team's regular games at Winrust Arena are now available for as low as $170 for some matchups. This pricing structure reflects the market's honest assessment of drawing power and entertainment value in the absence of marquee attractions. The disparity is even more noticeable when looking at ticket prices for Sky games throughout their schedule.
The WNBA will be reliant on their other stars to maintain the interest of the mainstream. With Angel Reese being the only player with mainstream name recognition, most of the pressure, it is going to be on her to perform. And we have plenty of evidence that proves Angel Reese is not qualified to carry the league.
The challenges of the Sky are not limited to victories and defeats. Without the guaranteed attention that comes from playing Clark, the Sky must rely entirely on their on-court product to generate interest, and their 0-4 start has coincided with a larger narrative about the team's direction and identity. Additionally, the early return implies that the product isn't compelling enough to maintain the elevated attention levels the franchise enjoyed during peak rivalry moments. According to a thorough economic analysis, Caitlin Clark was in charge of an incredible 26.5% of all WNBA revenue during her debut season. Estimates for 2025 indicated that Clark might make almost $875 million. These figures are based on quantifiable increases in attendance, retail sales, broadcast income, and overall economic activity in the cities where the Fever play takes place. They are neither hypothetical nor speculative.
Caitlin Clark could be projected to be $1 billion revenue maker for the WNBA this year. Now, obviously, the WNBA won't see that money, won't see most of that money, and it's not just in the WNBA, but it's all of her sponsorships, it's all of her appearances, it's all that stuff. But according to the projections, we're looking at $875 million could easily eclipse $1 billion on her economic impact. Caitlin Clark entering the league last year was responsible for 26.5% of all of their economic activity. So revenue from merchandise, which again, with the CBA as it is currently, she doesn't see a dime of any of that. TV, and then ticket sales, obviously, which again...
When ticket prices drop by 42% within hours of an injury announcement, it shows that Clark's value isn't just academic, it's practical and quantifiable. The market's fast response to Clark's injury serves as a real-time validation of this study. Due in large part to the popularity of a single player, the WNBA has established an economic base that offers both unparalleled possibility and substantial risk. The influence of this billion-dollar event goes beyond just game attendance. Fanatics reports that the league's apparel sales have increased by more than 500% as a result of Clark's participation. Due in large part to Clark's popularity, Dick's Sports Goods had a 233% increase in WNBA sales from 2023 to 2024. These figures reflect underlying changes in consumer spending and behavior rather than the brief spikes that could be anticipated from a novelty impact.
People might be saying, oh, well, the teams aren't really going to suffer. They already sold the tickets. No. You don't understand. If the Chicago Sky moved into the United Center, and let's say resale-wise, they sold all 19,000, well, when only 9 to 10,000 show up, they're losing merchandise sales, they're losing food sales, they're losing beverage sales, they're losing big. They took a big gamble to get into that arena, and they're losing big because it's not going to be full, and those people aren't going to be buying things.
The WNBA is being given a clear signal about the brittleness of its recent success by the current circumstances. Although the WNBA's growth is real and substantial, it is concentrated rather than widely distributed. This concentration of star power isn't necessarily problematic in and of itself. Many successful sports leagues have featured transcendent players who drive disproportionate interest, but the WNBA's current situation is particularly precarious because Clark is still early in her professional career and has already suffered her first significant injury. Clark's injury has exposed the league's dependence on a single player in ways that should concern executives, team owners, and players alike. The fact that the league is unable to sustain engagement levels without her indicates that efforts to cultivate and promote other stars have not yet reached the level required to maintain the current momentum. The pattern established during Clark's collegiate career should have given league officials additional warning signs when she was eliminated from the 2024 WNBA playoffs, as attendance for subsequent games fell precipitously despite the fact that those games included compelling storylines and other accomplished players. Although acceptable, the 929,000 viewers for the Las Vegas Aces vs. New York Liberty's semifinal matchup was a significant drop from the 1.8 million viewers that saw Clark's playoff debut.
The ticket prices. This does not shock me at all. What did I say earlier? The WNBA was about to F around and find out, and these rival teams were going to be in a lot of trouble. Well, they're finding out. Kathy Engelbert, WNBA, you better start putting some respect on Fever fans' names, Caitlin Clark's name. Otherwise, we got to remember, they lost $40 million still last year. All right? They're getting a new media rights deal. That thing won't be worth shit if Caitlin Clark was to either get really injured and couldn't play or decided to just say, I'm not going to play here anymore, I'm going overseas.
TV networks have centered their programming strategy around Clark's appeal and injury forces. Thus, her absence has an influence on the entire WNBA ecosystem in addition to the Indiana Fever and their direct opponents. Readjusting expectations and marketing initiatives, the situation also emphasizes the significance of player health and injury prevention in a league where individual stars carry such significant economic weight. Merchandise partners who have made significant investments in WNBA products now have to navigate a marketplace where the primary driver of sales is temporarily unavailable for other players in the league. On the one hand, Clark's injury creates space for other stars to capture attention and demonstrate their own drawing power, but on the other hand, the immediate drop in overall interest suggests that the casual fans Clark brought to the sport may not remain engaged without her presence. When a single player's availability affects league-wide revenue and attention levels, the WNBA's medical staff training procedures and game management techniques become even more crucial.
Jerseys, the number 22, the various styles, whether it's a t-shirt with 22, whether it's an Iowa jersey, whether it's a Fever jersey, a throwback, whatever. The amount of people in yellow 22 apparel is stunning. It is more than Peyton Manning ever had leading the Colts to a Super Bowl. It's more than Reggie, more than anybody I've ever seen. I've never seen anything like it. But now she's not going to play. So I'm curious, are we going to have sellout crowds? Are the Pacers going to draw the attention nationally when they play the Sky or the Liberty or the Sun or whoever?
As Clark prepares to return, the WNBA must consider a number of important issues regarding its future growth. Whether it is viable to rely so heavily on individual star power or whether efforts should be directed toward creating a wider, more spread appeal among several players and clubs must be addressed in the league's expansion strategy. The current state of affairs also calls into question the concentration of talent and the balance of competition. In an increasingly crowded entertainment market, the Chicago Sky and Angel Re must now think about how to develop their own stars and craft captivating stories that can draw fans in. The Indiana Fever's ability to draft Clark and build around her has given them a significant competitive advantage that goes far beyond basketball performance. Instead of depending on rivalry dynamics that need Clark's presence to have the biggest impact, they must figure out how to create interest and excitement regardless of their relationship to Clark. This means concentrating on winning games, building strong team chemistry, and crafting their own story.
Angel Reese and the WNBA have been using race to bring awareness to an incredibly bad product. Once you remove Caitlin Clark from the equation, there's no reason for people to watch this league, which is why people haven't been watching Angel Reese throughout her career.
The WNBA's recent growth, while impressive and real, is still fragile and concentrated. The league has successfully increased revenue streams, drawn in new fans, and raised its profile, but these gains are disproportionately tied to the presence and performance of a single player. This fact does not diminish the accomplishments of other players or imply that the WNBA lacks talent or entertainment value, but it does highlight Clark's unique position in the sport's current landscape and the obligation this places on both Clark and the league to protect and maximize this asset.
Without the NBA giving their yearly donation, this league would have folded years ago. And that's the part that bothers me about the organization, the owners, the players. This inflated ego, thinking, oh, we built this. You didn't build nothing. You're just getting by the NBA charity check. And with this mentality, they have these inflated egos and they're stuck in their ways. They think their way is the right way. This is going to be successful and failed for decades. Finally, a player that's worth paying the money for, Caitlin Clark, comes along. What do, WNBA? You beat her up. You treat her like crap. You treat her like she's dog doo-doo.
The WNBA's level of support and the durability of its recently gained fan base will be put to the test in the upcoming weeks. If viewership and attendance hold up well while Clark is away, it will indicate that the league has successfully transformed casual interest into a larger basketball fandom. If they fall off significantly, it will confirm that the WNBA's growth is still largely dependent on its biggest star as it navigates this difficult time. There is one thing that is certain. Beyond numbers and awards, Caitlin Clark has had a significant influence on women's professional basketball. She has become the driving force behind much of the WNBA's current success, and her brief absence serves as a sobering reminder of the opportunities and risks this poses for the league's future.